Hello, Internet. I'm me, and this is Kamen Rider Drive. Yeah, I haven't reviewed any of this, and I was really slacking off because I got random other things to do. However, now it's time for me to talk about Kamen Rider Drive. I'm actually going to cover all 4 episodes up till now, which by the time I get this up, probably the 5th episode will be out, but whatever. Um, yeah, Kamen Rider Drive. There's not There's not much to say about Kamen Rider Drive. Shit. He's a Kamen Rider. Um, they ask what a Kamen Rider is, but give no definition. Uh, Even though technically it's just Masked Rider, who gives a shit? But ah, shit. How I want to get into what I really feel is the worst part of the show and air my grievances out. However, it's just so not there. It so has me nowhere. Like, I don't care. Like, it's the one Kamen Rider. Like, I really don't care. Like, almost nothing attracts me to this Kamen Rider. Gaim attracted me with its story. Forze attracted me with Gintaro. Gintaro was just a kind of cool ass dude to me. I know he's kind of a stereotypical character, but he still had fun, and that attracted me. Like some of the supporting characters attracted me to Forze. Wizard had really cool magic shit. I like magic shit. Um, you know, something to attract me, and Drive has almost nothing to attract me. His theme song is cool. It's not a bad theme song. The plot of Kamen Rider Drive, is, of course, there's these monsters meant to destroy humanity, and they have done this with this thing called the global slowdown, in which I don't get this, but it's called density shifting, which is completely different from time shifting, but whatever. In this universe, density shifting means that time is slowed down. People are slowed down. Objects are slowed down. So time itself is being slowed down, and these monsters can move at a different pace in time. Basically, they move at super speed, and whenever they exude their powers, they cause time rifts, basically, and slow things down and make them speed up and slow down at unpredictable points. They call it density shifting. That's not what density shifting is. Density shifting is literally the shift of density, making things go from like hard as a rock to passable as like water. That's the shift of density. Lead is dense, a feather is not, you know. But whatever. Bad science name aside, of course, there was a prototype Kamen Rider Drive who helped save the day when the global slowdown happened. And our main character had a friend who was also a cop. They were both cops. And his friend got hurt because he shot a bullet into a like 20 gas tanks and blew it up, which didn't kill the dude because he dropped and then he hit the ground. He was like, shit. And then, of course, because it blew up, like debris falls down and crushes him. At first, I'm going to say this, at first, I thought the partner was dead. Turns out not. He was just in the hospital, and now he's just getting better with physical rehabilitation. Whoop-de shit. So you have these monsters called, I don't remember their names, they're just monsters to me. Unlike other Kamen Rider monsters, they have a finite source of them. There are only like 108. By the time it's episode 4, there's only 101. So, and another cool thing about them is that they can evolve. They can go from one type of monster to another during the span of 2 episodes. And of course, they're going back to the kind of formula where it's the same monster for 2 different episodes, which is kind of cool. And they try to do it with, of course, the framing device of a crimes investigation. However, what I'm already seeing, especially with episode 4 and 3, is that they don't stretch the actual story or the crime story from one episode to another already. This might change later on down the line, but already they have like one crime story starting, and then it's like, oh, who could it be? Could it be this guy? Could it be that guy? And immediately you figure out who it is by the end of episode 3 because there's an art, not an art thief, but a person who kidnaps women and puts them into art. And he has a protege. And the protege gets caught in episode 3, and they're like, ah, shit, it's just a protege. Well, we automatically know who the fuck the actual person is because he's the creepy old dude who dresses like Doctor Who. Old Doctor Who, where he was like flamboyantly colored. But, so it's like obvious. We know who we're going for. So episode 4, they automatically know who they're going after. They automatically know where to go to get him. Or they figure it out fairly easily. And of course, they go and they're trying to, and only because of Machine Chaser, an anti-Kamen Rider, is there any difficulty. See what I mean? Machine Chaser, I would tell you more about him if we knew more about him. Machine Chaser is an anti-Kamen Rider. He is the monster's, basically their enforcer. Like if one of their ranks gets out of line because they're trying to keep low profile. If any of their ranks get out of line, they send Machine Chaser to go after these monsters and kill them, basically. Destroy them, their physical bodies, and then they become this floating number, and they capture the number, and then they can reconstitute the monster as something else. So, unless they are defeated by Kamen Rider Drive, or even Machine Chaser, completely, their number can actually just kind of float back into the ether and come back reconstituted as a different monster, which is also kind of interesting. I hope they play with that a little more later on down the line. Kamen Rider Drive. Man, this character's kind of wonky. Now, what I like about this character is the pathos of the character. However, they don't really go into his pathos all that much because he's, of course, the carefree, happy-go-lucky main character in a police force. And he's part of a special assignment team that is filled with all the quirky weirdos to investigate these quirky, weird crimes where people are being shoved into paintings and women are being kidnapped and people are getting, like, their bodies, like, freaking, mutated and shit and captured and more kidnappings. But they're wacky because they go after density shifting, which some people don't believe density shifting is either a threat or is real. What? I mean, it happened. They have a world history. They have an app for density shifting. Why is that the entire police? Why is the entire police force not made up of people who can go after the density shifting type things? Like, it's a special unit, but it's not made of the best. It's made of the freaking weirdos for no reason. For something that is really real and a big threat, they give it to the oddballs. Which, yes, the oddballs can do their job, but why aren't they given more support? Why do the other police officers see them as weirdos and just not important? Why do, like, there's so many questions on that. Like, wouldn't that be more important? Because density shifting is a real thing. People are being harmed by it, and people are so afraid of it, they all have apps on their fucking phone to show them if density shifting is hitting them at any point in their area. It blows my mind that this special team is not taken all that seriously, even though they are put with a serious task. It makes no damn sense, especially when it's a police force. When it becomes a police force, you can't have it be fuck it. The characters themselves could be wacky, but the situations and the way that other people interact with them are not translated well. It's just not. It's weird. Um, and of course, our Kamen Rider is kind of this carefree guy, which I think is him trying to mask the fact that he feels guilt over what happened during the Great Slowdown. Same with his partner, who is, I wouldn't say grim faced, just stone faced sometimes, chick, who never smiles except for she has already smiled twice because of what happened during the slowdown and her being attacked by a monster, but barely getting away because of the prototype Kamen Rider Drive coming up and saving her. So, in a mysterious circumstance, she's the one who actually starts helping Kamen Rider Drive find the next Kamen Rider Drive and actually start helping out. We haven't actually heard the details of how this has happened. It could be a really interesting story, and I've even heard that there's probably going to be an episode 0 to let us know what's happened at that point. Now, the number one thing about Kamen Rider Drive is that bothers me wholesale. Um, this is the most gimmicky Kamen Rider I have ever seen in my fucking life. Like, wow, you are gimmicky. Like, honestly, Kamen Rider Wizard had a lot of spells. Kamen Rider Force had 50 switches. But I have not seen, and I hope this happens like Kamen Rider Gaim, where at first they show you a bunch of forms and then get into the story. You know, like you can kind of see that for Kamen Rider Gaim, they were just trying to get all the toy selling shit out of the way so that they can go into an actual story. This, holy shit, the tire changes on here are ridiculous and kind of stupid. Um, Very first episode, we already have 3 different tire changes. We have, no, I'm sorry, 4. We have speed, type fire, night shadow, and that spiky form. Already 4 right there in the first episode. And then by episode 2 and 3 and 4, you have Vegas, you have Taxi Dimension, you have Monster Truck, you have some others that I just don't remember. You had one that was like cement. Like shit like that. It's like, dude, really? Like, if every episode gonna just have 15 different like toys to sell, and it's so blatantly obvious. And with Machine Chaser about to get his own like 3 different forms called the Venoms with a bat, spider, and snake. I don't know. I haven't seen the episode yet, but I've seen like the article. Um, it's just screaming that, especially when the second Kamen Rider comes up, who has a different changing mechanism, same as Kamen Rider Drive, it's gonna get gimmicky. It is very, very, very gimmicky. It is very go buy these toys, you know, to a point where, of course, he has a sword with a fucking steering wheel on it that looks ridiculous. Um, how he transforms to me is probably the most out of like a lot of people have said, how is this a Kamen Rider if he doesn't ride a bike? And I can get that. I can. It's like how people tried to make Ghost Rider have a Mustang. It just didn't work. And this one, the car is not winning me over. It is, again, it seems very gimmicky. The car just isn't that important. It doesn't really feel like it fits, even with this character. Um, and the one thing that makes him feel like this character feel so unlike an actual Kamen Rider is unfortunately the belt. The Kamen Rider belt is a talking belt. Who cares? But how he transforms is he doesn't use the belt. He uses a wrist mount. And I know this is sounding like the most nitpicky thing ever, but even with an extension like Kamen Rider Meteor. Kamen Rider Meteor had a wrist mount. He had something to extend his powers. And he changed it with, planets. Shit like that. However, everything activated from the belt, and it was just an extension from the belt. Dragon Timer from Kamen Rider Wizard. Same exact thing. Extension of the belt. But this isn't an extension of the belt. It is the transformation sequence. It's almost like if he didn't have the belt, he could still technically transform. Not actually in the show, but it just feels that way because what activates it is him using the brace on his arm, not the belt. The like when they henshin, when any Kamen Rider henshins, it focuses on the belt. However, Kamen Rider Drive is very flick, and then everything is attention on the brace. You know, it's just something that kind of threw me off and said, no, this isn't really that much of a. That really kind of goes off for me as a Kamen Rider. And I've even seen people say, hey, Machine Chaser is kind of more of a Kamen Rider than fucking Kamen Rider Drive. And I can actually see where they're coming from on that one. These 4 episodes, I would go through the plots, but they don't really matter. Um, we figure out that there is a heart and brain monster who seem to be the big bosses, or at least the ones who take control of everything. And they're the ones, dynamically, they're the ones who actually kind of keep tabs on everybody else. And they're the ones who also send out Machine Chaser to take care of things. Now, other monsters are just kind of there to do their own thing, you know? And if they get out of line, heart and brain are there to actually either reel them in or sick Machine Chaser on them to take them out once and for all. Or, and restart them over, actually, not once and for all. Uh, Other than that, it's like there's not much to the story of these main characters. They're cops, they go and solve crimes, and one happens to be a Kamen Rider. They have wacky gadgets. Not really, but they do. They have like pots and pans that have lights on their heads to find density shifting signal because it leaves a residual energy signature. Um, they have a guy who I think is an otaku or just probably a very introverted guy who's good with computers. You got like the science chick, the eccentric chief. The Kamen Rider belt itself, I have a theory on why it talks, but it doesn't need to talk, if you get my drift. Now, the theory I have is that it is the original proto Kamen Rider Drive stuck inside the belt. Something had happened. That's my theory. And that's why he's there and actually can tell our hero basically everything he needs to know. Um, However, it would not lose anything if this belt never talked. For a good while, the belt doesn't talk. And you sometimes I almost forget that the belt even is a character. Another thing that kind of gets me about Kamen Rider Drive, and also this kind of got me with Kamen Rider Fives. Why take off the belt? Simple question. Why take off the belt? Kamen Rider Drive has to go to his car, grab the belt, put it on, then henshin. I'm like, yo, keep the belt on. Just leave it. I kind of wish more people went with the either Forze, where it's just in the negative space where he just goes here and then has it, or Kamen Rider Wizard did it perfectly for me, where it's just a spell, like to disguise the belt. I like that. Something like that would have been a little more preferable for this Kamen Rider. However, whatever. The tire changes kind of look silly and make the costume look worse, even though, again, the costume is really detailed and really nice looking. But it's just ruined by the big ass tire across the chest. It just does not work. And no matter how many tire changes they put in there, oh, Vegas looking one of the worst. The CGI for, oh, Taxi Dimension. Ugh. But they're kind of creative ideas, and I can see why they would have them. And of course, it makes it look interesting and actually has dynamic and different. I can get all that. The plot from now till the 4th episode has kind of just been setup. It's very much set up and introducing the characters. So there's actually not too much terribly to talk about in the way of plot. And of course, the stories aren't that interesting to actually really say anything about it. Yeah, sure, the main villains are actually keeping tabs and doing this kind of mafia thing with sending out an anti-common writer to reel in some of the more rambunctious villains. But other than that, we're not really interested in any other characters. I mean, yeah, you have a subplot with the sidekick chick, with her having to deal with the paint monster, who actually was trying to kill her the first time in the slowdown. But after that, she's kind of okay. Um, she gets over it, not well, but she kind of does just get over it. Again, our main hero, who, yeah, his name just escapes me and I don't ever care. Um, his partner got hurt during the slowdown and he feels his guilt, but then he goes to the hospital, visits him, and his partner says, hey, don't feel guilty, and he doesn't. It's none of these things carry out, so it's just like, done. Like, it. I mean, yeah, they're learning to trust each other, or they're trying to figure out, team dynamic, but it's very slow for team dynamic, very small. Um, Other than that, there's not much else to these characters that are not that they're two dimensional, but they're not that three dimensional, if you know what I mean. It's like there's something that could make them interesting, but they're not very interesting. They have dimension, but I don't care. Hopefully, by the time episode 5 and the second Kamen Rider comes out, um, we get to see more interesting storylines because they have a lot of things that could make for interesting storylines. These monsters committing crimes and having their own reasons and motives to do so could actually make for a very interesting show. They could have actually gone with the whole Scooby Doo Mystery Incorporated, where each mystery or each crime actually is planting the seeds for an even bigger crime or an even bigger plan later on down the line. And it might be doing that, and I might just be dumb and not noticing the hints yet. So, honestly, out of all of that, every episode, I would give this Kamen Rider Drive episode 1 through 4 6 out of 10. 6 out of 10, just almost a very half and half thing to watch. I'm going to continue watching because I can see so much potential. And I can see that they're going to try to go for something. But I just don't know what yet. And as of now, it's just kind of watchable. It's not great. It's not good. It's there. And I mean, I can get some laughs out of the bad special effects or the stupidity of the tire steering wheel on a sword. But I can also appreciate that the monsters aren't just some stupid monsters, that they can reconstitute themselves, and they might actually have a really cool plan. So, until next time, y'all, peace.